Hi, Brigitte. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, you're welcome. This is fun.
So, to jump right in, we'd like to know, when did your weight become an issue?
It's been an issue off and on since I was probably middle school age. One of my girlfriends and I talked to a doctor at that point. It was her uncle. And we wanted to lose a little weight because we were chubby.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the start of it. So he gave us a little checklist of eat this and don't eat this. And then high school was mostly okay. I kind of slimmed down, went through that puberty period, and got mostly what I would call normal, at a normal weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was really a problem again. I had my first child at age 20. And all through my 20s, I had difficulty with weight. But during that pregnancy, I ballooned up to 200 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
which was quite shocking for me. And it took me about 3 years to get that off. And since then, it's just been up and down and up and down.
Okay.
And I'm 59, so decades of body shaming and finally giving up, actually, recently.
Wow.
Last summer, I'd just mostly given up.
Wow. And so the up and down, you did a lot of things during that time, a lot of, I'm guessing, I mean, most people, the up and down is you tried some weight loss methods, but they weren't sustainable, or?
Right, that's the main thing. They weren't sustainable. When I got the baby weight off
Mm-hmm.
from my first child, like I said, it took about 3 years. And during that time, I did some kind of exercise for hours, at least 3 hours, probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
I played volleyball and did weight training, and it was pretty extensive. Finally, the weight came off, but I couldn't maintain that 3 hours, 3 or 4 times a week.
That's a lot of hours.
So it started creeping back on.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed at a weight of about maybe 150 for about half of my 20s. Went up a little bit more, came down, tried a whole bunch of different diet techniques.
Mm-hmm.
I even took diet pills when I was probably in my early 20s. I'd forgotten about that.
I think back in the day, that was not uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my mother's friends had to go to the hospital because she had taken one. I was like, okay, I shouldn't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then it was basically, I did Weight Watchers and gained weight, and that was shameful because you have to weigh in front of all these people.
Mm.
And
Ouch.
I just never liked being told what to do. I'm an only child, pretty stubborn, and I like to do things my way. And my way didn't work, but I didn't want to do it the other ways either. I never did the packaged meals, but I read several diet books and tried this or that. Had some success with the low-carb versions of diets.
Mm-hmm.
I found that my body responds well to a little less carbs, but mostly unsuccessful.
And so what was it that eventually led you to consider the Fast 5 or intermittent fasting lifestyle?
A friend of mine, actually a former student from my early teaching days about 25 years ago, he posted something on Facebook that said he had lost however many pounds. It was a significant number, and I didn't really pay it any mind. He's a big guy, and I thought, okay, he's lost some weight. Good, I'm glad for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few weeks later, maybe a month, he posted again, and maybe the number was 59. I don't remember, but it was significant.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what are you doing? And he said, intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what it was. And then I met another friend, probably within a month of that small conversation, and I was recording with him, and we went out to dinner afterwards, and he said, oh, I can't wait to get this cheesesteak sub. I've been fasting for 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, really? 20 hours? Isn't that a long time? Because, my mindset is breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and you can't fast because then your metabolism goes down and all that stuff we've been taught that I've certainly found isn't correct. So he gave me a little bit of information. He said he had to lose 20 pounds. He had done that, but he was still maintaining
Mm-hmm.
using the intermittent fasting lifestyle. And he said, maybe one day a week I kind of do what I want. But
Cool.
basically, he was telling me that he was using it to sustain and maintaining very well.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it also seemed like it wasn't an issue. It wasn't anything. He didn't have a glum face. He looked very happy with what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I came home that day and thought, I've got to find out about this. And so I started searching, and Dr. Bert, your TED Talk was the first thing I watched.
Great.
And the 19.5 made a lot of sense. But I didn't get started right away. I guess I had to convince myself. So I kind of played around with different times and some days versus not doing some days for maybe 6 weeks before sometime in the middle of September, I started recording my fasting hours and sticking to it on a daily basis.
Now, we talked earlier, and I remember before you even started considering the Fast 5 intermittent fasting lifestyle, you had gone to the doctor and you had had some news that was troubling to you.
Yeah, I felt like I was sort of falling apart. My knees hurt, one hip hurt, but all my numbers were not good. My doctor was concerned that my liver numbers were too high. My cholesterol numbers were higher than she wanted them. They weren't sky high, but in the 230s, which was about 30 points higher than my normal.
Mm-hmm.
And she sort of forced me gently to go on one of the statins. And she gave me a small 10 milligram or something. And blood pressure was a little bit high. And it was like the inside of me was also saying, Brigitte, you've got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to work. And soon after starting with intermittent fasting, the next time I went for my blood numbers, everything was good. Everything was low. Glucose numbers were good. Cholesterol was lower than it had ever been. I was amazed. It's like, wow.
So no more of the statin medicine?
No, actually, I was so against taking it that I'd started breaking the 10 milligram in half.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, Brigitte, 5 milligrams, I wouldn't even prescribe that for anyone. Just stop taking it. But her question to me, well, firstly, she supported. She wanted to know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard a lot of stories about their doctors, healthcare providers not supporting, and because of the belief system we've all had.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular doctor did, which was good.
That is
And then
good.
her question to me was, "Can you maintain it?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can do this.
Nice.
This is
Nice.
doable." I think that's the most exciting part, is that it's doable. And I had given up because I couldn't find anything that I could do and stick with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you shared something earlier that was most interesting, and I remember your face just lit up. It was so wonderful to hear the story. When you went into the doctor the second time, before you saw the doctor, you had an interaction with the nurse, and you stepped on the scale. Am I remembering right?
Yeah, actually the order is a little off. This was a different doctor. It was before the blood work. It was
I see.
Probably when I was playing with the idea of trying intermittent fasting. It was in that time frame. And I went for a follow-up for some other procedure I had done. And the nurse said, "Okay, we need you to step up here." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I hate those things." And she was really nice. And she said, "Don't worry, I won't say anything bad to you. It'll be okay." And I got on there, and it was about 15, 16, 17 pounds lower than what I expected. And I said, "That can't be right. There's no way that's correct." And I got off, and I got back on again. And it said the same thing. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So I promptly went home and started taking out clothes that didn't fit before.
Nice.
And throwing things out that were now too big. And one thing with jeans was really funny. I had tried on these jeans that, when you've been overweight all your life, you have a million sizes in your closet.
Mm-hmm.
So I had these jeans I hadn't worn in probably 10 years. And I put them on, and then they fit. And then within a few weeks, I needed to cut them off because they were getting too long.
Wow.
And I was like, why are they getting too long? Because my legs were shrinking.
Wow.
I was like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable.
That's wonderful.
That's great.
So I asked your permission earlier, so I'm not really just plunging in here, but people always want to know, How much weight have you lost?
I've lost a total of 43 pounds.
Wonderful.
Super.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah, it
fantastic.
feels really good. I said to someone recently, when I lose the next 43, I'll really feel like a new person.
That's great.
I'll be at my college weight.
And that
which is
43 pounds,
amazing.
you started in earnest living this lifestyle about, what, 5 months ago? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably middle of September. I don't have the exact date. And I didn't measure right away. So anyone I introduced to this way of eating, I said, make sure you measure and take a lot of pictures.
Right.
Great.
So I would say middle to the end of September is when I really started very day by day recording things and watching my hours and sticking to a fasting set of hours that was pretty much the same day by day.
Nice.
You mentioned feeling confident in the fact that this is sustainable for you. What is it about it that gives you the feeling that this is something you can do as long as it takes and keep going with?
There are several things, Dr. Bert. One is I feel better, and it's doable. I get to eat things I like. I don't have to say, you can't have pasta, or you can't have dessert, or you can only have this once a month, so I don't have those rules imposed on me by anyone except myself. And I don't mind imposing them on myself. It's fine. And it's not one of those things where I have to have all this willpower.
Nice.
I've actually lost an interest in sugar things. Reese cups used to be my favorite candy bar. I don't even want them anymore. They're too sweet. And sweet has always been an issue for me. So for my body to say something is too sweet is pretty remarkable.
Nice.
So the combination of finally listening to my body and doing mostly what it says. I wouldn't say I never overeat, because I do sometimes.
Sure.
But I know when I'm full. I know when I'm hungry. And I had ignored those body signs for so many years, I didn't even know what it felt like to be full, because I was always eating past full. So I've gotten to the point that I can feel those things. I can hear my body talking.
Nice.
And I can eat what I want. So it's freeing. It's just this freeing thing that never came with any other kind of eating plan.
Super.
Unless it was one to gain weight for me. And I never had one of those. But that's, if I ate what I wanted, that's usually what happened, is I would gain weight.
You know, that's not unusual. A lot of people tell us this for years. I mean, we've been talking with people about this lifestyle for over 15 years now, and very commonly, freedom, power, and control are the words that come back to us. And so I'm not surprised to hear you say that. Yeah.
It's a really remarkable change. The fact that not only does the weight loss begin, but the appetite shift was one of the things that surprised me when I was experimenting with this, just getting started. And that is a really fun thing to have, just to lose interest in things that you know you don't really need in your body, but have kind of habitually taken to in the past. It's a great change.
So with this lifestyle, do you have to fight hunger?
No. The first few days when I was determined that I am stopping eating right now, and I closed the window maybe before my body wanted me to. I had a headache a couple days, and I thought, and I don't usually get headaches. It was very unusual. And I went to bed and finally had to get up, and I took some over-the-counter thing. And then after about 2 days, that all subsided.
Good. And so you mentioned some of the changes in your appetite and that feeling of being aware when you're telling you that you're full and so on. So would you say that you've achieved appetite correction?
I think so. The first indication, I had two really big indications of it. One was I was out to dinner with some friends at my favorite place, and they have a very nice salad bar. And it's not just salad, it's really interesting, different kinds of items. And typically I would go around there 2 times. And I didn't realize until I had gone home that day, I said to my daughter, I only went around 1 time. And I just didn't think about it. I mean, I had what I wanted to eat. I had enough to eat. And the conversation was good. And it was less important to go get more food that I didn't need anyway. And then the other realization was, I think, the sweets. I was standing in my kitchen and just looking and, do you want this? And I didn't want anything that was in front of me. And I was definitely not hungry. My body was saying, you're not hungry. Typically when we go out now, as soon as I get a meal, I will say, can I have a box? And I put half of it away.
Wow.
And I had been able to do that in the past. I could have done it, but I wouldn't have done it because I would just eat past being full.
Wow, that's nice. That's great. So people who lose a significant amount of weight over time, very commonly they have a weight loss plateau for a period of time. Have you experienced a weight loss plateau since starting the Fast 5 intermittent fasting lifestyle?
I guess I have. I don't think of it like that really, but the first 35 pounds came off pretty quickly. Within 3 months. I had lost almost about 10 pounds a month. And then things slowed down around the holidays, end of the year. And I think it was maybe early in the year, I realized that during maybe the next 6 weeks, I had only lost about 5 pounds. And it didn't concern me. I guess because I'm so convinced that this works. But even though I had only lost a little bit of weight, my body still made changes. So I actually went through a second clothes purge after only losing a few more pounds. And that was pretty amazing to me. But I guess between reading the appetite correction book and experimenting and knowing my own body, there are some things that I think I can do. Probably need to step it up a little bit so I can get past that 43 pounds.
So it sounds like your plateau was more like just not quite as steep a decline.
It's slowed down. Well, it's I've been at the same point now. So maybe when I said maybe I am, I think I'm probably having that experience now because I've been at the same weight for a while.
Well, it's interesting because when you said that you only lost about 5 pounds over the holiday, and I'm guessing that you mean the Thanksgiving to sort of New Year's period in this country that we all, that most people tend to finish up having gained weight, which is interesting. So having only lost 5 pounds for some people would be quite the joy. Yeah, good for you. So you said you have added some other tools you're going to be dropping 43 more, you said.
Some of the things I've done, I've increased my fasting hours and I mix it up a little bit. So some days I will do 19, some days I'll do less, and some days I will do 23. And I've just been kind of going back and forth with that. Typically, if I have, for whatever reason, I have a long window, I have always kind of made up for it by having several short window days because I don't feel good. If I eat for 8 hours, even if it's not overeating, I don't feel good anymore. So that's another reason I know I can maintain it. It's just, it doesn't feel good to do what I used to do.
Nice.
So I can make the fasting window longer. I can watch my carbs a little better and not be so generous with a dessert here and there. Just not to the point of restriction as I used to, but some restriction is fine. And I don't need it. I don't need all those carbs anyway. It isn't that I eat a lot of them, but I know as soon as that's the food category that will make me feel puffy pretty quickly.
Interesting. You said puffy? Is that the word you said?
Puffy, yeah.
Yeah.
I can feel it in my body.
Yeah, it's inflammatory for a lot of people, and so that's not unusual. Yeah. Many people talk about weight loss, and particularly weight loss with the intermittent fasting lifestyle. And the people with whom we speak the most are people who live the Fast 5 lifestyle, the 19 and 5 regimen. people tell us that it affects their relationships with themselves, with food, with other people. Have you experienced that?
Well, I definitely have a different relationship with myself because I lived decades of shame, shaming myself mostly, but just feeling, one of my body goals is to not feel that shame, to be able to go to a beach in a normal bathing suit. I'm 59. I don't aspire to wear a bikini, but to wear a normal bathing suit and not be ashamed of what my legs look like. Interestingly, I haven't had people who have said negative things, with one exception. My daughter said in the beginning, she said, "Mom, you're starving yourself." And I said, "No, I'm not." And then I came to realize she thought I wasn't eating at all. And since then, she is also doing intermittent fasting, which is exciting.
You had mentioned that your husband at one point had not noticed some weight loss, and that was troubling to you. And then
yeah, that was an internal thing also. This was after my second child was born. She was born when I was 39. And so I was in my early 40s, 2 decades after losing weight with the other child. And I had lost what I thought was a significant amount of weight. I was doing an exercise plan, one of those circuit things where you go for 30 minutes and you go around a circle and you do all the different things. And I was watching what I was eating too, but I had lost about 30 pounds and I was so excited about it. And I remember standing in my bra and panties in front of my husband saying, "Do you see the weight I've lost?" And he didn't notice. And he wasn't being mean. He just didn't notice. He was, I don't know, unaware or wasn't bothered that with the body I had before. I'm not sure, but it was very hurtful to me. And I promptly gained it all back. And I felt so stupid about that and why I let anybody else say something that would control what I do to myself. Just seems so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that, because certainly the confidence that you're expressing now with this lifestyle suggests to me certainly that that you are very internally driven with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share. I've had friends who will say, "What are you doing? How did you lose so much weight?" And I'm so happy to tell them. But I don't go out and say a whole bunch of stuff to bring attention to myself. If someone asks, I'm very happy to share. And several friends have jumped on the 19-5 plan as well. And that's exciting for me to see things working for my friends as well.
Oh yeah, of course, I'm sure.
In the appetite correction book, I wrote about a goal body. And that means instead of having weight as a goal, having a particular body. And it's not necessarily what the body looks like, but sometimes what it can do or what it can wear, or just people have all sorts of different ideas about what their goal body is going to do when they get there, but they typically know when they're going to get there. So for you, what would your goal body be?
There's several things on my list. The ones that come to mind the fastest. One is to have clothes in my closet that fit, not 5 sizes or 3 sizes, because that's what my closet has looked like since I was a teenager. I always had the fat clothes, and I always had the clothes as I've gotten older that I haven't worn in a long time and really want to wear again. So I want to have just things that fit. We've been downsizing in our house, so that's been part of the process, is to get rid of extra stuff that we don't need, including my clothes in my closet. So to have only what I need, only what I love, to go in a store and buy something that has no W's and no X's. And it's been so long since I've done that. I don't even remember how long ago that's been. We have a dog and we sort of take turns walking her. And last night I ran up in the woods with her. And for me to run I'm not a runner. I was never a runner. But to have the energy to be able to do that on a regular basis. My daughter likes to hike. She actually is budding herpetologist. So she goes out and looks for snakes and amphibians and all kinds of critters. And I can keep up with her to a certain point, but I'd like to be able to kind of stick with her for a couple of hours.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'll do this trail with you and then I'll stop, which is what I did in January.
Nice. That sounds like a great goal body.
It does.
To keep in mind.
And it sounds like you are destined, I mean, with your own tenacity and adherence to this lifestyle, that you're going to reach that in the time that is the time that your body and you, will take. Yeah. That's wonderful.
The time is a big thing, because there was always before anxiety. How long is this going to take?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take too long. I can't do it. And I don't really care about that, because I know it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I don't even mind saying my weight. That was always a shameful thing. But I tell people what I weighed and what I weigh now. And the numbers are awful. They're just awful. But I'm not worried about that anymore. There's no anxiety that I'm going to be stuck with this.
I like that a lot.
And our lack of protest does not mean that we agree that the numbers are awful, just so you know. I mean, we respect your perspective, but
it is something that I was trying to touch on in the book when I talked about the not at goal body. It feels temporary now, I think. So you're in transition, you're on your way, and it's not the same as it's not my body, it's my just not at goal body. And you'll get there. That's great.
And what's amazing is, even at this weight, and I need to lose probably 90 more pounds, I can already see some of that happening. I gave the example of running up in the woods with a dog. I mean, it was a short
That's wonderful.
run. But even at this weight, some of those goals are happening. It's very exciting.
Nice.
That's wonderful. Bravo. That's fantastic. Well, we are delighted that you've shared and chosen to let your story inspire others. It's generous, and it's interesting because generosity is part of wellness as well. And so it sounds like you're pursuing wellness on a quite well-rounded approach, and we commend you for that. That's wonderful. Yeah.
So if somebody were considering starting intermittent fasting, you mentioned that the first few days there was some hunger, but what would you want to share with them, your best advice on getting started and getting it going? I always direct them to certain things to do, with your TED Talk being the first one. And I'll just say, just listen, and just listen with an open mind. And I might tell them a little bit about my story, how I wasn't sure at first. So I kind of experimented with it. And and there were a couple of times in the beginning where I had a headache, but look at where I've come. Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
So I'm a good example of it works. And getting through those couple of days of headaches was fine. And it wasn't that bad. It was, a couple of hours at night.
Sure.
But otherwise, there's been no, I'm so hungry. None of those feelings. And I've even decided I can manage black tea. I don't love it. I like Indian chai with lots of milk and sweet. And I'll have that in my window, not every day, but when I want it, I have it. So
Nice.
I think what I would convey to someone is that the freedom of this way of eating is just very exciting, and it's doable.
Great.
And I can do it. You can do it. Whoever that you is.
That's great.
Great. Well, we appreciate your willingness to share with others as you're on this journey, and we look forward to talking to you more and seeing how things go. We wish you all the best, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and we're around the corner, so give us a holler if you need anything, and we are cheering you on the whole way.
Thank you. It's been great to visit with you. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Sure.
Our pleasure. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.